Greetings and welcome to week two, my OPM 2000 online section. How are y'all doing? I hope you're having a great weekend. I hope you're getting all your work turned in on time. As you probably remember from last week, there are no lectures with this class. So each week I do present just a really short intro video to kind of help you to find motivation and encouragement for the week, and maybe to bring up one or two topics that I want to kind of focus in on. And of course, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I post my lecture notes from my on-campus lectures that I do for the on-campus section of this course. So keep your eye out for those. So I'm not going to go through everything that we're going to be going through in my notes, but I do want to point out this week one little extra little thing. And you probably have heard about this before, probably in some of your freshman level courses. If not, you're going to hear about it repeatedly until, well, you retire from the business world, I'm sure. And that is SMART goals. SMART, S-M-A-R-T. It's an acronym and it stands for specific, measurable, achievable or attainable, relevant, time bound. This is how we can structure some goals, okay? And you can look up, there's some templates you can see online on how to kind of format them. There's no specific way to do it. What it is a way of helping us make goals that are grounded in reality, that actually are goals we can achieve. So you're specific, you want to this is a way to define what that goal actually is. You want to give details about what's going to include, um, all the little different nuances about what that goal is. Measurable. You define some criteria that helps you to keep an eye on how you're progressing with that goal. Achievable slash attainable. And this is how you double check to make sure that your goal is grounded in reality. Sometimes we can have a lofty goal. I used to know people when I worked in the nonprofit sector that would have these lofty goals. What if I won the lottery? What would I do? I would do this, this, and this, and this, and this, and I'd do that, and everything would be fine. My life would be perfect. And there wasn't this. This is not a goal that's grounded in reality. First of all, most people never win the lottery, and if you do, those that do win it wind up even in worse financial condition in a really short period of time. And this is a fairly common occurrence because the people that win the lottery don't know what it's like to actually have lots of money. So they don't know how to invest it, how to maintain it, how to save it, how to use it wisely. And so they start just giving it away and they buy all these big things. And next thing you know, they're in debt, even worse than they were before. And so we got to set our goals in a very realistic way. Relevant. This is why this is the time period when you make sure that your goal is aligned with what you're able to do and with what you have available to do it with. When I was an Army sergeant for military intelligence, I didn't come up with my goals based on what the entire unit had or the entire division, but rather I had to go with what we had in our inventory just for me and my team. Then I was able to make my plans. And if I needed more than I actually had in my inventory, I had to procure it. I had to obtain it through the supply chain. And I'd have to then get that and know that I have it. Now I can include it in my goal setting process. I can include it in my planning. So we got to make sure that the goal is in keeping with where we're actually headed to with the overall big picture project. Let's take my life, for instance. When I was 14, I wanted to be a professor, but of biology. I wanted my doctorate in it, and I wanted to teach at a college in Colorado. Well, that didn't happen. It wasn't realistic because shortly after I came up with that idea, I wound up going into the Navy within just a few years. Within 3 or 4 years, I had signed up for the Navy, and I was off in a different way. Now I wasn't focused on that original idea. I had to wait until my life was back aligned again, and I had to see where was I at. While I love biology and microbiology specifically, I wasn't going that direction. My life was in a way that was making that really feasible. So when I determined what fields I wanted to specialize in college, and on my 5 different degrees that I worked on, I had to pick something that made sense. So we got to make sure things are relevant, that they're aligned to what we have available to us and what we're able to do. Time bound. You got to make sure that you put a cap on that goal. You want to make sure that you don't say, well, it's an open-ended goal. No, if you don't say, I'm going to complete this goal within 5 years, guess what? 15 years is going to come around and you still won't even have started really that goal. So we got to put some sort of start date and end date on our goals. And that's what this smart template or this smart pattern helps us with, this SMART goals. And I want you to play around with that, do some looking at Google. This week, you're also going to be learning a bit more about, let's see, what are we looking at? You're looking at what a SWOT analysis is. A SWOT analysis, SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you put it into a matrix. And a matrix is basically a table. And you list down all of the strengths, all of the weaknesses, all of the opportunities, all of the threats. And this is something that you can use to help make decisions. And you're going to start going through learning about what an A3 report is. An A3 report is simply called an A3 report because it's the size of the paper that it's printed on. There is no set template for it. However, I'm going to take a look here because if you have a template available in the on Canvas, I want you using that template because it just makes it easier for us all. But I think if there's a template, it'll be here. Let me see what we got. Last semester there was a template. I don't see one now, but if you see a template on any of this in the material on Canvas, use that template. If not, just do a Google search. Type in A3 reports, and you're going to see a lot of different ways that an A3 report can be stylized to be like. That's because there's no set design to what an A3 is. But what is set is the type of information that's on it. Now, I encourage my students with their A3 reports, as long as you put all the pertinent information, I'm okay if you go ahead and put pictures and diagrams and even little cartoon characters. You can be creative with an A3 report. It's a time that allows for some creativity. So I don't mind that, just as long as the sections are there. But don't write out an outline or 3 pages of narrative and turn that in for your A3 report because you won't pass this. You'll get a 0. That's not what an A3 report is. An A3 report has specific information, and it's done in a way that is graphically appealing. We can look at it and we can see what's there. It's an easy access way of looking at everything that's involved with that project. So, if you have any questions about A3 reports, please feel free to email me. If you have any questions about anything in this course, don't be a stranger. Send me an email, okay? And I'm usually pretty quick about replying. I'll be getting the grades done. Let's see, I'll have last week's discussions all graded by Wednesday evening, and I'll have all the assignments graded by Friday evening. I try to be prompt with it. That's the time period that the school gives. And so I stay usually within that. I say usually because I don't ever go past it. Sometimes I get them done earlier, but we'll see how things go. You have a great week 2. And remember, on your discussions and your assignments, if you give information that comes from a source, you are required to include APA 7 citations and references. And I want everybody to make sure that you watch the video I posted during week 1 on APA 7 in academic writing, because otherwise it's going to be hard to pass this course. All right, you have a great week 2, and I'll see you in the assignments.